Okay, it is 12 noon, so let's rock and roll. My name is Jenny Nicolau. I am the Senior Manager of Industry Relations and Communications for the Almond Board. And I have had the joy and the pleasure of co-leading the Almonds.com rebuild project with a fantastic team at the Almond Board. Before we dive in, just wanted to remind everybody, if you hover over your screen, please take the liberty to mute yourself and to take off your camera. That'll increase your bandwidth. And also if you hover over, you get this toolbar that appears, and there's the ability to chat. So if you have questions or comments, we will be monitoring that chat function. And this is a short and sweet webinar. Our goal is really to highlight the specific areas of almonds.com that pertain to you, but it's also a conversation. So if you have questions or just comments, please feel free to use that chat. So now that we've covered the housekeeping slides, we will dive into the new site. It's pretty crazy to think that until a few weeks ago, the almonds.com site that you all used previously was actually 6 years old, which meant in terms of website worlds, it was really quite a dinosaur. More than a year ago, we began this monumental journey of redesigning the website. We knew the former site was a really great source of information, but the problem was sometimes it was just hard to find what you were looking for. So we went through really quite a large project. It took us about a year. We worked with a top-notch agency who helped guide us strategically. And what I'm most proud of for this entire rebuild is that we listened to the industry. We built this site for industry and with industry. And I mean that by the fact that we brought together a small stakeholder group of growers and some processors and allied industry members. We listened to their experience, their joys and their frustrations in working with the former site. And we really honed in on those opportunities. We also did a small stakeholder group with food professionals. We did a nationwide survey to consumers. And we coupled all of those stakeholder interview insights with our analytics and with an environmental landscape. And what we have here is this gorgeous site that really does serve the industry. It's so much simpler, it's cleaner, it's easier to navigate. I do want to drill into the areas of the site that pertain specifically to those in the handling or almond processing world, but I actually want to walk through a few pieces of the core elements that you just see here on the homepage so you understand how the site functions. First and foremost, here in the header, in the former site, there used to be specific tabs, for example, for a consumer, an almond grower, a health professional, almond processor. You see that there's no longer specific audience tabs. There is just one site, and it is almonds.com. Naturally, by the way that the tabs have been created, they do reach specific audiences, but there's no need to have different sites. You'll also see at the header, we have the link to find a supplier. That is a really common question we receive at the Almond Board, and it made sense to elevate that. So regardless of the page that someone is on, they will always be able to look in that header and click Find a Supplier. Today, we're only talking about the US and Canada site, but you should know we're actually launching the new Almonds site in 11 different regions around the world. And US was our first launch. We're currently working on the others, and those should be completed in the coming weeks. And before we dip into the tabs, I also want to feature the search function. I'm really proud of this area because it just meets our needs. It takes away the click by basically you asking for what you want. So one thing for standards and grades, I think is just a really common question. Here I typed in the word standards. You could see some results here. Depending on your search term, you can also fine tune those search results by saying if you want a news article, something from the press room, a video, and so forth. I want to scroll through just this homepage for a quick minute, which really does mirror the top navigation in these tabs. So you can see we've elevated the Almond Board, what our role is and how we serve the industry. There's a section on why almonds. The Almond Living magazine is a beautiful way for us to feature different things that are happening for basically the curious consumer, for those in the health professional world, those who are eager to find out about our sustainability story or want to know about a new recipe or trends in that area. The Almond Industry tab we're going to dive into, and specifically looking at the processing safe product, and we'll spend time there. And I love this bottom section, the tools and resources, and we will dive specifically into crop reports. We're going to look at some other areas, but this is such a clean way that really elevates the different tools we provide. The footer, of course, appears on every page. This is a clean way of seeing what falls under every tab, and there's the ability to sign up for our newsletters. I should mention at this point, and I'll show it to you in the navigation, down in the footer is a direct link to the handler portal. And let me reassure you that the home of where the handler portal lives has not changed. The bookmark that you have probably saved has not changed. We did elevate it so it's much easier to find. Once again, you could see find a supplier. So that's nicely nestled in the footer. And I'm skipping ahead a bit here, but I know Handler Portal is near and dear to all of your hearts. So under Tools and Resources, it's also a direct link. Now, looking at why almonds, we're not going to dip into these areas today. I do encourage you to spend some time and really savor this section. It is intended for those curious consumers, for those sustainability seekers, for those who want recipes and trends. And this also helps to reach our food professional audience a bit, our health professional audience. So that's a nice, beautiful area. The Almond Industry tab is where we are going to spend a bit of time together. And I don't plan to walk through every tab, but I do want to specifically show you that on this homepage, we've elevated the 4 Almond Orchard 2025 goals. That's a nice way to remember what they are. There's a link to the sustainability program, which gives a really clean and good overview of why growers and handlers should join that journey, the benefits to them, what that means to the industry. Orchard management is definitely specific to almond growers, but in your role as an almond handler, this is a fantastic resource for you to share with your growers. It's very neatly organized, and it pertains to the various growing seasons or cultural practices they should be following, everything from GAPs. There's just a wealth of resources and overviews on water and irrigation, harvest dust, absolutely into ways to reduce dust at harvest. Of course, we communicate that out through the monthly handle that you receive and the weekly in the orchard. But as your role as a leader to the growers, I would really encourage you to dip into some of these pages and to share these pages with your growers. It's going to make all of us just better leaders in the industry and really help defend our right to farm. So once again, this is harvest, and this is under the orchard management section. So we're looking at almond industry, orchard management. As I mentioned, this really does pertain specifically to almond growers. We're going to dip in a few minutes into regulatory and trade, but we do recognize that sometimes growers have questions about what our shipments look like and what those parameters are or key issues. For you, though, today we're really going to focus on almond industry and processors and suppliers. And the marketing order services team, Bryce and Sabrina, Tony and Tim, they sent me some very specific things that they basically said, Jenny, don't forget to highlight these. And so I have a checklist of things I want to make sure you really understand where they are and how they serve you. First and foremost, that technical kit. We're going to look at the regional ones in a bit, but if you're just looking for that link, where do I find the US or English tech kit? It is right here. Processors and suppliers, you can download the tech kit right there. And then here's a little overview, and we're going to dive into these areas. The supplier and exporter list is the same that it was before. Tony helps to manage updating this list. Certainly, folks can sort the regions, they could sort by the product. We are working on enhancing the print functionality and looking at some improvements there. but that's a clean list of the suppliers. And let me go back here. The industry directory is another chance to find those service providers, the technology, anything you need for the industry. What we did, the actual database is the same, but we cleaned up the categories for resources. If you're familiar with what this database looked like before, I think there was close to 35 different choices or options for the resources. They've really been cleaned up, and I think that helps serve the industry better. Of course, you can search by county. Now you'll notice that when I clicked on these two most recent areas, they actually fall under tools and resources, but we did start under processors and suppliers. We did that on purpose. They are a tool, they are a resource, and you'll see those in the drop down again. The processing safe product, if you're going to bookmark one area, I'm going to encourage you to bookmark this area. So once again, Almond Industry, processors and suppliers, and now we're under processing safe product. And we're going to dip into a lot of these because there's a couple key contacts and resources I know you all use really commonly. But to give you a glimpse, we have everything from the Pasteurization Program and FSMA to GMPs, stockpiling, PEM, HACCP, aflatoxin, allergen control, pesticide MRLs, as well as the GAPs. And you could see in some cases, something like the GMPs, where we know we have the manual that's just commonly needed. We have elevated that resource to download from this view. You can always go a step further, but this is a clean way to serve those resources and give them to you just in one click rather than in multiple clicks. So the Pasteurization Pro. I have my checklist here because there's a couple resources I know we need to hit. This is a good overview of the different styles and validation and processes, but this is the key right here. These key contacts, the custom processors, DVUs, DV auditors, the process authorities, your EPEC login, all of this appears, I'm gonna go up for a second, the Pasteurization Pro. So once again, and we could grab this URL and stick it in the chat for you. If you're going to bookmark an area, this is a really good one. And these are where those updated contacts are provided. You also see that we've elevated a lot of these documents, a lot of these guidelines. And so these PDFs are provided, just a real clean way to download it. What I should mention on many of these pages, there is a journey to it, and we did that purposefully. We didn't want to build a site that you just visit once and leave, or once and you get frustrated and leave and never come back. We really did create a site that's more than just something for you to read, but something for you to do. And we did that by building in this journey. And so you could see if you were to follow this journey, the next section we would go to is FSMA. So I'm going to click on that. It has just really good resource about how FSMA affects farmers. You could see we have links to FDA, preventative controls. So just a clean way. Sometimes you download a document, sometimes you can go to an external resource. This was a good on the rules and compliance summary. On the GMPs, I know this is near and dear to everyone's heart, and we follow these. This is a simpler page. You can see where you can basically download the guide. Stockpiling, stockpile management. If you need this resource, you can absolutely download the guide for hullers and processors. We of course have one for growers, and that's where you could find that. So for PEM, we of course have the PEM manual that's provided in Spanish as well. We have the go-to resource, and you could see those. And you see, I'm just going through the journey, but I'll go back a layer in a moment and show you that higher level of processing safe product again. Here's an overview of HACCP and the HACCP manual and the HACCP form. In many cases, I want to assure you that a lot of the information, a key majority of the information from the former site came over. It is just organized much more efficiently. It just makes sense. Hopefully you find a way, or you find that these PDFs, these resources just kind of serve you in a cleaner way. On the aflatoxin page, this would be another one we could grab a link and put in the chat for you. Specifically, the PEC manual does fall under the aflatoxin page. So I'm going to scroll down a bit. You can see links to the stockpile best management again. There's the PEC manual right there. And I'm going to try to speed up here. Here's a link to the USDA approved labs. You can see that. And then I'm going to go a layer up so you can see this high level again, because a few of these I just want to highlight one more time. So we're processing safe product. You're going to bookmark something. Pasteurization program is key because that's where you're going to find your main contacts, like your custom processors, your DV users, DV auditors, your process authorities. That's where your EPEC login is at, as well as the PEC labs. The FSMA is just a really fantastic resource. And then the aflatoxin, when we went through these, the aflatoxin one is where the PEC manual is held. The other one are these pesticide MRS. That's all a good one to keep your eye on. Of course, that link to the USDA International Maximum Residue Limit database, that's key. And so beyond here, we're going to go back to processing safe product. And we're going to go one more layer to processors and suppliers. So I hope you see how deep that processing safe product was. But this area I love, and it's going to serve you really well, is standards and grades. Certainly we know from buyers around the world, there's a question on standards and grades and those minimum and maximum allowances. You can see at the top again, there's a link to download the US Tech Kit. Here's the overview of the grades for shelled almonds and what it means to understand those. But this is one of my personal favorites. These are all of the translated tickets. And so if you want them in French or Arabic, in Italian or Chinese, you could just scroll through and download those specifically from right there. I would bookmark this page, certainly for your marketing teams. These are nice overviews of the grades and those descriptions, the grading parameters. If you ever need copies of the grade cards, whether it's in-shelled or shelled, you could see how you could request those copies. Once again, on this page, and we worked hard to really elevate the find a supplier or exporter. So that appears here. And of course, that does appear in the header. So the next area within processors and suppliers that's worth us visiting and spending some time on, the varieties and forms is very beautiful. That's great if you have buyers around the world who really want to dip into the different varieties and forms and those descriptions. A lot of this, of course, appears in the technical kit. But the next area that I think serves really well is this regulatory and trade. Once again, you can see we really tried to elevate the link to the tech kits. We know that's a big issue. We have elevated the email address, regulatoryissues@almondboard.com. Certainly many of you know Bunny and Julie and Jeff who work on the Almond Board team to help alleviate any pressures that you might receive or pressures around the world. So I encourage you to use that. We're going to dip into each of these three areas. The global markets, and these are really kind of new areas. I think they're very clean and should help you in your role. Global markets, first off, we have created a section specific to the global updates. So of course, this comes out every month with the position report. But what we did in this area is we have gone back, we've gone back basically 4 years, counting 2020, and you could view all those global updates. So if you remember that there was an issue or something you wanted to track, you could always go back into those. Certainly you could download the latest right at the top without having to scroll too far. So that's a nice clean service. The export requirements is very important. Here's a link to the summary of applied tariffs and other trade measures, an overview of the PEC program, aflatoxin, phytosanitary requirements, the global MRL database. And then I'm gonna go back one layer and then we'll take the journey forward. Because we do dip into the key markets, starting with the US, and this is new to the site. On the former site, we didn't break out the US. You can see that there's a nice market overview, and then we elevate the key issues that we're tracking here. You can see that there's also relevant links there. And of course, we don't go into all 90 countries, but some of these key areas like the European Union has that overview, exporting information. And here's some nice links as well, like a PEC backgrounder, FAQs, that addendum letter, the sanitary requirement. So I don't plan to click into every region, but you can just get a glimpse as to what is provided. I'm gonna go back to the global markets overview and just scroll down so you can see that. I'm gonna go one more layer back to regulatory and trade. Government affairs really talks about our role at the Almond Board, what we do in educating stakeholders and those around the world and what that impact means. This is a nice, really simple resource that talks about the key issues, and there's some fast facts that could serve you well. We also elevate our partnership with the Almond Alliance. And this resources and stats area is another way to get to the position report, and I'll take you there in a moment. And some of their key databases or services that you might use in your role. So we walked through regulatory and trade, and the other thing, so remember, we've walked through Almond Industry, processors, and suppliers. The Industry News tab is really great. Every week we update this because every week we send out electronic emails. We send out emails with industry news to growers. A lot of those topics appear here, and a lot of those topics do pertain to you. I think more importantly, you know, sometimes we go into processing. Certainly that topic comes up in the handle, but a lot of this really is worthy information for you to share with your growers, and I just stress that enough. This website serves you as a processor. It also serves you as a leader. So the tools and resources, what was interesting when we pressure checked this website, this was actually kind of the first go-to the industry members visited, and I think it makes perfect sense. One of my favorite pages is the crop reports page. And that's because we take the monthly position report and we're updating this section once a month, and these first 5 numbers are pulled from the position report. As of yesterday, we updated the objective report, and you could see the ability to change your units from pounds into kilos. This section will appear on the regional. The position report, of course, comes out once a month, but what this particular section does a really nice job of is it goes back to 1997. And so if you're curious or you just feel like walking down memory lane, here's the page for you. Of course, within the crop report section, we break down everything from the USDA NASS acreage report, subjective, objective, the nursery report. You can see the land IQ reports are here as well. If you happen to miss yesterday's announcement, certainly you know about the 3 billion pound estimate. But equally as important is to view the presentation. And so you can see we go back a number of years, and there's multiple pages below that really provide that objective forecast. So the second area I want to really dive in is food safety and quality. These are a number of resources to help you, and these are specific tools and resources. I know we're getting a little close on time, so I'm going to scroll through these a bit quickly. I'm going to go through the Almond Characterization. So once again, here's the link to download the standards, the almond composition, overview of sweet and bitter. And then for those of you, this is a big page, those of you who've ever used the management calculator, this is housed once again under tools and resources, food safety and quality, moisture migration. But here is a link to that moisture calculator, and that of course looks at storage conditions, your relative humidity, time, and you can change those factors. So that's a really interactive and strong tool to help guide you. So I'm going to let you all spend a bit of time just really digging into this food safety and quality. You could see all of these different areas of tools and resources. One area I do want to highlight for you is this COVID-19. I know there's many players out there who are serving the industry well. We also want to make sure that you have access to the resources that the Almond Board's been putting out there and hosting, as well as some other key resources. So here's a video and some recordings on the Food Assistance Program, as well as FAQs there. 3 things you should be discussing with your employees regarding COVID. And let me just stress, this page is specific to almond processors. We've built a page for growers, but this is specific to processors. So I'll just scroll through that. Going through this process of redesigning almonds.com, we realized we don't have to be everything for everyone, but we could be a hub. And I think we do a nice job of sharing other resources of other groups who do a really great job of getting information out. And COVID-19 is a strong example of that. We walked through regulatory and trade, but you can see that does appear here under tools and resources. Once again, under tools and resources, we've elevated how to find a supplier. There's the industry directory, a link to the research database, and of course you can get to the handler portal from here. And the last area I'll breeze through is about us. Under programs and events, if you're looking to bookmark another key area, I really encourage you to bookmark the upcoming events page. This is a great way for you to stay involved, stay in the know, and this is where we'd have upcoming meetings, events, announcements, and you can see that here. Another one is Meet the Board and Staff. I think this is a great way to understand who has stepped up in serving the industry. You could see those board members and you could read their bios, as well as staff members at the Almond Board who are working to serve you day in and day out. And lastly, I'll just mention the press room. We did create a press room specific for media. So once again, for industry news, that appears under Almond Industry, Industry News. We don't do too many press releases, but when we do, those will appear under the press room, and we certainly are tailoring media within that area. There's a link to the annual publications. So if you ever have a need to send out the Almond Almanac, you can do so, or Growing Good. You can also visit the previous years. And lastly, I know most of you work directly with Sabrina or Tony, Tim, or Bryce, but if you have anything that you need to elevate or just looking for a different contact person, you could certainly get in touch, and here are 3 email addresses there. So this has been the longest overview, but I think it really proves that we have built this site for industry, and we really have kept processors top of mind, growers at the top of our mind. So with that, I'm just going to stay on this homepage, and Ashley, let's see if we have any questions.
Sounds good. Yeah, no questions yet, but if you do have a question, please feel free to type that into the chat. We'll give you guys a couple of seconds to do that. All right, not seeing any questions come in, Jenny, so.
Okay, well, just thanks again for everyone who popped on. We did record this. We will be posting it to YouTube and getting it out there. So if there's somebody from your organization you want to share it with, certainly feel free to forward it. I just encourage you all to spend some time really just diving into this site, bookmarking those 3 key areas that I mentioned, which would be the almond industry, processors and suppliers, and within that was processing safe product, the industry news, and then of course the programs and events for the upcoming events. Really proud of this site. I'm even more proud of what you all do for our industry. So thank you for your role. Thank you for feeding the world. Stay safe out there, and thanks again.